Commander Wu Jin stared at the control panel with growing worry. The numbers did not make sense. None of the star patterns looked familiar. The experimental faster-than-light drive had worked perfectly during tests, but something had gone wrong during their jump to the Kepler system. "Hi, Jin. What is our status?" he called to the chief engineer who was crawling under the main console with tools scattered around her. "The drive is completely broken," Jin replied, her voice muffled by the machinery. "Whatever happened during that jump, it burned out half our navigation systems too. We are lucky the life support is still working." Tae-ho looked up from his navigation station, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Commander, I have been trying to match our position with any known star charts for 3 hours. Nothing matches. We are not just lost. We are really, really lost." Sora's communication station suddenly made loud beeping sounds. "Sir, I am picking up many signals, very strong ones. They are all around us." Her fingers moved quickly across her controls. "These are not natural signals. Someone is out there." Before Wu Jin could respond, the main screen turned on. Dozens of ships surrounded them. No, not dozens. Hundreds. They were huge, sleek vessels that looked nothing like human designs. Their hulls were made of strange purple-silver metal that seemed to move in the starlight. "Well," Wu Jin said quietly, "I guess we are not alone out here." The largest ship moved closer to their small exploration vessel. It was easily 50 times bigger than their ship, covered with what looked like weapon systems. Other ships formed a perfect circle around them, blocking any possible escape route. Admiral Kethvar stared at his tactical display in complete shock. A ship had just appeared in the middle of hegemony space, not at the border where scouts sometimes tested their defenses, not in some distant system where smugglers occasionally tried to hide, right in the heart of their territory, in a system that had been under Imperial control for over 2,000 years. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Sir, our sensors show no sign of how they arrived. No hyperspace wake, no dimensional disturbance, nothing. One moment space was empty, the next moment they were there." The Admiral studied the strange ship on his screen. It was tiny compared to even their smallest patrol vessels, and its design was completely unknown. The hull looked primitive, almost crude by Imperial standards. But somehow this little ship had done what no enemy in hegemony history had ever done. It had gotten past every sensor net, every defensive system, every early warning station between the border and here. "What kind of technology does it take to do that?" Kethvar whispered. His communication officer looked up nervously. "Sir, they are trying to talk to us. The signal is strange. It is not using any known Imperial ways of talking. Put it through." The main screen changed, and suddenly they were looking at the bridge of the alien vessel. The creatures inside looked almost like Valdric, but different. They had smaller bodies, less bone ridges, and their skin was pale pink instead of the proper blue-gray of civilized beings. One of them stepped forward. He appeared calm, even friendly. When he spoke, the universal translator struggled with his language before finally making understandable words. "Hello there. I am Commander Wu Jin of the exploration vessel Persistence. We seem to have had a navigation problem and ended up in your space by accident. We are not sure where we are, and we would appreciate any help you could provide." "Admiral," Kethvar felt his blood turn cold. The alien was speaking as if this was a casual meeting between equals, as if appearing in the heart of hegemony space was just a minor problem, as if being surrounded by the 3rd Defense Fleet was nothing worth worrying about. "You will surrender immediately," Kethvar replied, his voice carrying all the authority of the Empire. "You will submit to questioning and prepare to be taken to Imperial custody." The human looked puzzled. "I am sorry, but I think there has been a misunderstanding. We are explorers, not soldiers. We just want to fix our ship and find our way home. We have no interest in causing any trouble." The Admiral felt a chill run down his spine. Either this creature was completely crazy, or it was so confident in its backing that it felt safe dismissing Imperial authority. No species in known space would dare speak to the hegemony with such casual indifference. On the human ship, Wu Jin turned to his crew with a confused expression. I think we might have stumbled into some kind of military territory. They seem pretty worked up about us being here. Should we try to explain that we are peaceful? Sora asked. I thought I just did that, Wu Jin replied. Maybe there is a translation problem. He-Jin poked her head out from under the console. Whatever the problem is, can you handle it quickly? I need to focus on these repairs, and all this talking is distracting. Taeho was studying his star charts again. Commander, based on the ship designs and the way they are positioned, I think we might have run into some kind of space empire. The formation they are using is definitely military. Great, Wu Jin muttered. Just our luck. We get lost and end up in the middle of someone else's war. Back on the Imperial flagship, Admiral Kethvar was receiving reports from his fleet commanders. Each report made the situation sound worse. Sir, the alien vessel is making no attempt to power down its weapons. Sir, they have unknown energy signatures throughout their ship. Our scanners cannot identify their technology. Sir, they are not responding to our standard intimidation ways. Kethvar studied the small ship on his screen. It looked harmless enough, but looks could be deceiving. Any species capable of getting this deep into hegemony space had to have technology far beyond anything the Empire had ever seen. Send a message to Imperial Command, he ordered. Tell them that we have made contact with an unknown species of potentially extreme technological capability. Ask for guidance on how to proceed. On the human ship, Wu Jin was trying to be diplomatic. Look, I understand that our arrival might have startled you. We had no intention of intruding on your territory. If you could just point us toward empty space, we will get out of your way as soon as our engineer finishes the repairs. The response from the alien commander was immediate and harsh. You will not leave this system without Imperial permission. You will submit to boarding and inspection. You will answer all questions about your technology and your homeworld. Wu Jin felt his patience starting to wear thin. They had done nothing wrong except get lost, and these aliens were treating them like criminals. I am afraid I cannot agree to that. We are a peaceful exploration vessel on a scientific mission. We have every right to conduct our business without interference. The words hit Admiral Kethvar like a physical blow. The alien had just refused Imperial demands with the casual confidence of someone who knew they held all the cards. This was either supreme arrogance or evidence of backing by a civilization so powerful that the hegemony was nothing more than a minor problem to them. Maintain position, he ordered his fleet. Do not take any hostile action until we receive orders from Command. We may be dealing with an advanced scout for something much larger. Wu Jin turned back to his crew. Well, this is awkward. They seem to think we are some kind of threat. Should we try to leave? Taeho asked. Not until He-Jin fixes the drive. Besides, running away might make them even more suspicious. Sora looked up from her station. Commander, they have got us completely surrounded. Even if our drive was working, I do not think we could get past all those ships. Then we wait, Wu Jin decided. We will be polite, we will fix our ship, and hopefully they will let us go home once they realize we are harmless. None of the humans realized that their casual dismissal of overwhelming force was being seen as the most terrifying display of confidence the Valdric Empire had ever witnessed. High Legate Morden arrived in the system 3 days later aboard his personal diplomatic vessel, followed by a full battle fleet. He had spent 500 years mastering the art of breaking lesser species to the Imperial will. This situation would be resolved quickly and efficiently. Admiral Kethvar, he said as soon as his ship docked with the flagship, brief me on these humans. The Admiral looked tired. Dark circles ringed his eyes, and his usually perfect uniform was wrinkled. High Legate, they have been uncooperative. Every demand we make, they simply refuse. Every show of force we display, they ignore. They act as if our entire fleet is no more threatening than a passing cloud. And they still have not attempted to leave? Their engineer keeps working on their drive system. She has been at it for 3 days straight. And, sir? The Admiral hesitated. Every time we try to help by extending a tractor beam to prevent, Their ship from drifting, she finds a way to break free. Our engineers have no idea how she is doing it. Mordan studied the tactical display. The human ship sat in the center of the Imperial formation like a tiny island of calm in an ocean of warships. Have they made any demands? Just one. They keep asking us to point them toward empty space so they can go home. The High Legate felt a familiar chill. In his experience, species who made no demands were the most dangerous of all. They had nothing to bargain for because they already had everything they needed. On the human ship, cultural attaché Yun Su had finally been awakened from cryosleep. Emergency protocols had activated her pod when the ship detected extended contact. With alien life, she was practically bouncing with excitement. "This is incredible," she said, studying the data her crewmates had collected. First contact with an actual galactic civilization. The cultural implications are amazing. Wu Jin looked at her with weary eyes. "Yun Su, they have been holding us prisoner for 3 days. I do not think they are interested in cultural exchange. But that is exactly why we need cultural exchange. Obviously, there has been a misunderstanding. Once I explain human customs and peaceful intentions, this whole situation will clear up." Heejin's voice came from deep within the engine compartment, muffled but clearly frustrated. "Could you all keep it down? I am trying to recalibrate a quantum flux regulator here, and your chattering is making it impossible to hear the resonance frequencies." Sora looked up from her communication station. "Yunsu, the big ship is sending another message. They want to arrange a formal diplomatic meeting." "Perfect." Yunsu clapped her hands together. "This is exactly what we need." 2 hours later, Yunsu found herself in the main cargo bay of the Imperial flagship, facing a delegation of the most powerful beings in known space. High Legate Mordan sat at the head of an ornate table, flanked by military commanders whose chests were covered in medals and honors. "Welcome," Mordan said in his most intimidating diplomatic voice. "I am High Legate Mordan, representative of His Imperial Majesty and speaker for the Valdric hegemony. You will explain your presence in our space and accept our terms for your surrender." Yunsu beamed at him. "How wonderful. Your empire sounds fascinating. How long have you been a spacefaring civilization? What is your population like? Do you have any interesting art forms we could study?" The High Legate blinked. In 5 centuries of diplomacy, no one had ever responded to his opening statement with enthusiastic questions about art. What? Oh. Sorry. I got carried away. I am Cultural Attaché Yun Su of the human exploration vessel Persistence. We are so excited to meet you. This is humanity's first contact with a galactic empire. We have so many questions. Admiral Kethvar leaned forward. You will answer our questions, not ask your own. Of course, of course. What would you like to know? We are completely peaceful. We are explorers and scientists. Our ship is called the Persistence because humans have a saying about persistence overcoming obstacles. We got lost when our experimental drive malfunctioned, and now we are stuck here until our engineer can fix it. High Legate Morden felt his confidence wavering. The human female was speaking with the casual friendliness of someone meeting neighbors at a social gathering. She showed no fear of the assembled military might, no awareness of the power arrayed against her. "These are our terms," he said, sliding a data tablet across the table. "Your species will acknowledge Valdric's sovereignty over this sector. You will provide technological specifications for your faster-than-light drive. You will submit to Imperial protection and guidance." Yunsu picked up the tablet and read through it, her expression growing more confused with each line. "Oh, I am sorry, but there seems to be some kind of mistake. We are not interested in joining anyone's empire. We just want to fix our ship and go home. We are very grateful for your hospitality, but we can take care of ourselves." The silence in the room was deafening. No species in galactic history had ever casually declined Imperial protection. It was like refusing air or water. The protection of the Empire was the most valuable thing any species could hope to receive. "Perhaps you do not understand," Mordan said slowly. "These are not negotiations. These are the terms of your surrender." "Surrender?" Yunsu laughed. "But we are not at war with anyone. There is nothing to surrender from. We are just travelers who got lost." On the human ship, Teho had made an interesting discovery. Commander, I have been studying our position and we are right at the intersection of three major shipping routes. The traffic patterns are fascinating. This would actually be a perfect location for a rest stop or refueling station. Wu Jin looked at the navigation display. You're right. No wonder they are so concerned about us being here. This must be a strategically important location. Should I mention it to them? Sora asked. Maybe if we explain that we understand the strategic value of this position, they will realize we are not trying to claim it. Good idea. Send them a message. Sora opened a communication channel to the Imperial flagship. This is the Persistence. Calling the Valdric fleet. Our navigator has noticed that this location sits at the intersection of major shipping lanes. We want you to know that we understand the strategic importance of this position, and we have no intention of establishing any kind of permanent presence here. Admiral Kethvar received the message just as the diplomatic meeting was falling apart. The human was refusing every term of surrender with cheerful politeness, acting as if the Empire's protection was some kind of minor favor she could casually decline. Then the navigation message arrived, and everything got worse. Sir, his communications officer reported, the humans are sending a message about the strategic importance of this location. They say they have no intention of establishing a permanent presence here. Kethvar felt his heart stop. The humans had just demonstrated detailed knowledge of Imperial shipping routes and strategic positions. Their casual mention of no permanent presence sounded exactly like the kind of statement a conquering force would make before establishing a temporary military base. In the diplomatic meeting, High Legate Mordan was making one last attempt at reason. You cannot simply refuse Imperial protection. No species survives in this galaxy without the guidance of the Empire. Eunsu tilted her head thoughtfully. Well, humans have been doing just fine on our own for quite a while now. We appreciate the offer, really we do. But we prefer to handle our own affairs. It is nothing personal, we are just very independent. The High Legate stared at her in horror. A species that claimed to be doing just fine without Imperial protection could only mean one thing. They possessed military and technological capabilities far beyond anything the Empire had ever encountered. I need to consult with my superiors, he said finally. Of course. Eunsu stood up and bowed politely. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. This has been absolutely fascinating from a cultural perspective. As she left the room, Admiral Kethvar turned to the High Legate. Sir, what do we do now? Morden was quiet for a long moment. Send a priority message to the Imperial capital. Tell the Emperor that we have encountered a species of such advanced capabilities that they casually dismiss Imperial authority. Request: immediate guidance on how to handle a first contact scenario with what may be our technological superiors. Back on the Persistence, Eunsu was practically glowing with excitement. That went wonderfully, such an interesting culture. Very formal, very hierarchical. I think once they get to know us better, we will be great friends. Heejin's voice echoed from the engine room. Did you explain that we just want to leave? Of course. Though I think there might still be some translation issues. They seem to think we wanted to join their empire. Well, Wu Jin said, settling back into his command chair. Hopefully they will figure it out soon. How much longer until the repairs are done? At least another week, Heejin called back. Maybe 2 if I cannot find the right replacement parts. None of them realized that their simple desire to fix their ship and go home had just triggered the biggest diplomatic crisis in Valdric Imperial history. Grand Marshal Velthar arrived in the system with the Third Armada, exactly 1 week after the diplomatic mission failed. Over 1,000 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their combined firepower capable of turning entire star systems to dust. If diplomacy could not handle these humans, overwhelming military force certainly would. The Grand Marshal was a legend throughout the Empire. He had conquered 47 star systems and brought 32 alien species under Imperial control. No enemy had ever faced his armada and lived to tell about it. Status report, he commanded as soon as he boarded Admiral Kethvar's flagship. Sir, the situation has not improved. The humans continue to refuse all terms of surrender. They claim they just want to repair their ship and leave. And you believe them? Admiral Kethvar hesitated. Sir, either they are telling the truth and they are the most naive species in the galaxy, or they are so confident in their military capabilities that they see no need to take our threats seriously. The Grand Marshal studied the tactical display, showing the tiny human ship surrounded by over 1,000 Imperial vessels. Have they shown any sign of fear? None whatsoever, sir. If anything, they seem annoyed that we will not leave them alone. On the human ship, Sora had finally managed to establish clearer communication with the Valdric fleet. The translation software was working much better now, and she was proud of the progress they had made. Commander, she reported, I think I have solved most of the language problems. We should be able to communicate much more clearly now. Excellent, Wu Jin replied. Maybe now we can explain the situation properly and get this mess sorted out. Sora opened a channel to the new flagship that had just arrived. This is Communications, Specialist Sora of the exploration vessel Persistence. We are happy to report that our translation systems are now functioning properly. We would like to clarify our situation for your new commander. Grand Marshal Velthar received the message with interest. Finally, the humans were ready to communicate properly. This would make the surrender negotiations much simpler. This is Grand Marshal Velthar of the Imperial Third Armada. You will explain your presence and intentions immediately. Thank you, Grand Marshal. We are humans from the planet Earth in the Sol system. We are a single species from a single world. We are explorers and scientists, not soldiers. Our ship suffered a malfunction that brought us to your space by accident. We have no military backing, no hostile intentions, and no interest in territorial disputes. We just want to repair our ship and return to our home space. The Grand Marshal listened to this explanation with growing disbelief. The humans were claiming to be a single species from a single planet, who had somehow developed technology advanced enough to penetrate to the heart of Imperial space. The idea was so absurd that it could only be a deliberate deception. You expect me to believe that a single species from one world has developed faster than light technology, superior to Imperial science? Well, Sora replied thoughtfully, I would not say it is superior. Our drive system is actually pretty experimental. That is why it broke down. We are still working out the bugs. The casual dismissal of Imperial technology as inferior sent shockwaves through the bridge of the flagship. The humans were not even trying to hide their technological superiority anymore. At that moment, Maintenance Chief Dong Wu emerged from the engine room where he had been working for the past week. He had been so focused on the repairs that he had not paid any attention to the political situation developing around them. Hey, he said, looking out the viewport at the massive fleet surrounding them. When did all these ships show up? Wu Jin explained the situation while Dong Wu listened with growing amazement. So let me get this straight, Dong Wu said. These guys think we are some kind of threat because we got lost and ended up in their space? That is about the size of it. Huh. Dong Wu scratched his head. Well, as long as they are here, maybe one of them has a decent fusion torch I could borrow. Yejin has been trying to repair the power coupling with a plasma cutter, but a good fusion torch would make the job much easier. Before anyone could stop him, Dongwu had activated the communication system. Hey there, Imperial Fleet. This is Maintenance Chief Dongwu. I do not suppose any of you folks have a fusion torch we could borrow. We are trying to repair a damaged power coupling and it would really speed things up. The message was received on every ship in the Armada simultaneously. A single human surrounded by the greatest military force in the galaxy was casually asking to borrow tools as if he was talking to helpful neighbors. Grand Marshal Velthar felt his blood turn to ice. The human's complete lack of intimidation in the face of overwhelming force could only mean one thing. They possessed defensive capabilities so advanced that 1,000 Imperial warships posed no threat whatsoever. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human vessel is launching a small craft. On the main screen, they watched as a tiny maintenance pod detached from the human ship and began flying directly toward the Grand Marshal's flagship. The pod was so small it barely registered on their sensors, yet it was approaching the most heavily armed vessel in the armada without hesitation. Hai-Jin had finally emerged from the engine room and was piloting the maintenance pod herself. She had heard Dongwu's request and decided to take matters into her own hands. The big ship at the center of the formation looked like it would have the best equipment. "This is Engineer Hai-Jin," she broadcast cheerfully. "I am coming over to see about borrowing that fusion torch. Do not worry, I will bring it right back when I am done." The bridge of the Imperial flagship erupted in chaos. A single human in an unarmed craft was approaching their ship, apparently intending to board it. The casual confidence required for such an action was beyond anything in their experience. "Sir, should we open fire?" the weapons officer asked. "No," Grand Marshal Velthar shouted. "If we attack and their defenses are as advanced as they appear to be, it could trigger a full-scale war. Maintain defensive positions only." Hai-Jin brought her pod alongside the massive dreadnought and began looking for a docking port. The ship was so big she felt like an ant crawling on the side of a mountain. Finally, she found what looked like a maintenance bay and maneuvered, her pod inside. The Imperial crew watched in fascination and terror as the tiny human craft disappeared into their own ship. Automatic systems sealed the bay and began atmosphere equalization procedures. 10 minutes later, Hai-Jin was walking through the corridors of the flagship, following signs toward what she hoped was an engineering section. She passed dozens of Imperial personnel, all of whom stared at her with expressions of shock and awe. Finally, she found the main engineering bay and approached the nearest technician. "Hi there, I am Hai-Jin from the human ship. I was wondering if I could borrow a fusion torch for a few hours. We are trying to repair a power coupling, and our plasma cutter just is not hot enough for the job." The Valdric engineer stared at her for a long moment before stammering. "You want to borrow a fusion torch? If it is not too much trouble, I promise I will bring it right back." Word of the human's presence spread through the ship like wildfire. Within minutes, Grand Marshal Velthar himself arrived in the engineering bay, accompanied by a full security detail. He stared at the small human female who was casually examining their equipment as if she was browsing in a hardware store. "You boarded my flagship to borrow tools?" "Well, yes," Hai-Jin replied. "Dongwu asked if anyone had a fusion torch, and this looked like the biggest ship, so I figured you would have the best equipment." The Grand Marshal struggled to process what he was hearing. This human had approached the most powerful warship in the galaxy and boarded it alone, all to borrow maintenance equipment. The level of confidence required for such an action was incomprehensible. Meanwhile, Medical Officer Jin'ei had finally been briefed on the situation by her crewmates. As the ship's medical officer and xenobiologist, she was fascinated by the opportunity to study alien physiology. "Commander," she said to Wu Jin, "would it be appropriate for me to offer medical assistance to these Valdric people? It might help improve relations if we show them some of our medical knowledge." "That is a good idea, Jin'ei. Maybe if we demonstrate our peaceful intentions, they will relax a bit." Jin'ei opened a communication channel to the Imperial fleet. "This is Medical Officer Jin'ei of the human vessel. We would like to offer to share some of our medical knowledge with your people as a gesture of goodwill. We have recently made some advances in controlled biological warfare countermeasures that might be of interest." The message was intercepted by Imperial intelligence and immediately flagged as a priority threat. The humans had just offered to demonstrate biological weapons while claiming it was medical assistance. Grand Marshal Velthar received the intelligence report while he was still trying to figure out what to do about the human engineer who was now happily examining his ship's fusion torch collection. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "the humans are now offering to demonstrate biological warfare capabilities. They claim it is medical assistance." The Grand Marshal closed his eyes and tried to remain calm. In the span of one day, the HFY humans had demonstrated casual disregard for overwhelming military force boarded his. Emperor Zalthus the Eternal sat on his throne in the heart of the imperial capital, reading reports that made no sense. According to his commanders, a single ship from an unknown species had gotten into the core of imperial space and was now holding the Third Armada at bay through pure indifference to their power. "Grand Marshal Velthar," he said into his communication device, "explain to me how one small ship can intimidate 1,000 warships." "Your Majesty, It is not intimidation in any conventional sense. They simply act as if our military power does not exist. They board our ships to borrow tools. They offer to demonstrate biological weapons as medical assistance. They treat the greatest armada in Imperial history like helpful neighbors. The Emperor leaned back in his throne. In 3,000 years of Imperial expansion, nothing like this had ever happened. Species either surrendered immediately or fought until they were destroyed. No one had ever simply ignored Imperial might with casual politeness. What do your intelligence analysts say? They believe we are dealing with a civilization so far advanced beyond our own that they see no need to hide their superiority. Their technology allows them to penetrate our deepest defenses. Their confidence suggests military capabilities we cannot even imagine. On the human ship, Security Chief Kyung-ho had finally been awakened from stasis. The emergency protocols had activated his pod when the computer detected an extended hostile contact situation. He stretched, yawned, and looked around at his crewmates. "So," he said, studying the tactical display showing the surrounding fleet. "What is the situation?" Woo Jin briefed him on everything that had happened over the past 2 weeks. Kyung-ho listened with the patient attention of someone who had dealt with complicated situations before. "Let me see if I understand this correctly," he said finally. "We got lost, we asked for directions, and they think we are some kind of invasion force?" "That is about right. And they will not let us leave until we surrender to their empire?" "Correct." Kyung-ho shook his head. "Well, that is just silly. Why do we not apologize for the intrusion and ask them to point us toward home?" His suggestion was overheard by Valdric intelligence operatives who had been monitoring all human communications since the crisis began. The human security chief's casual dismissal of Imperial power was immediately interpreted as evidence of overwhelming confidence. The Emperor convened an emergency session of the Great Council of Worlds, summoning representatives from across the galaxy. The council chamber filled with delegates from hundreds of species, all wondering why they had been called for this unprecedented gathering. "Members of the council," the Emperor began, "we face a crisis unlike any in Imperial history. A new species has made contact with the Empire and their demands are unusual." High Legate Mordan stepped forward to address the assembly. "The species calls itself humanity. They claim to be explorers who became lost. However, their actions suggest capabilities far beyond our understanding. They have demanded that the Empire stand down all military forces and provide technological assistance." A murmur of shock ran through the assembly. No species had ever made demands of the Empire before. "What are their terms if we refuse?" asked the representative from Kalos Prime. "They have not specified terms," Mordan replied. "They simply state that they want to fix their ship and leave. Our analysts believe this is a way of saying they want to establish a permanent military presence in our core systems." The delegate from Zerion stood up. "What kind of military force are we facing?" "A single ship," Admiral Kethvar reported. "Approximately 50 meters in length, crew of 8 individuals." The silence in the chamber was deafening. The idea that 8 individuals in one small ship could threaten the entire Empire was so absurd that it could only mean one thing. Humanity possessed weapons of unimaginable power. Meanwhile, Science Officer Min-ho had been conducting routine sensor sweeps of the surrounding space when he detected something interesting. Other ships were watching the situation from the edge of the system, keeping their distance but clearly observing everything that was happening. "Commander," he reported, "I am picking up what looks like scout ships from at least 3 different species. They are staying well outside the Imperial formation, but they are definitely watching us. Probably just curious about all the commotion," Woo Jin replied. "Can you identify them?" Min-ho worked on his sensors for several minutes. "I think one group belongs to something called the Kethlian Republic. The others, I am not sure. Should I try to make contact?" "Why not? Maybe they can tell us what is going on here." Min-ho opened a communication channel toward the nearest group of observer ships. "This is Science Officer Min-ho of the human exploration vessel Persistence. We have detected your ships observing this situation. Would you be willing to share any information about the local political situation?" The message was received by Captain Thelshan of the Kethlian Republic Navy, who nearly fell out of his command chair. The humans had just casually started contact with the Empire's greatest enemy, right in front of the Imperial fleet. This is Captain Thelshan of the Republic vessel Starseeker. We are surprised by your direct approach. Are you not concerned about Imperial reaction to this contact? Should we be? Minho replied. We are just trying to understand the situation. We are explorers, not politicians. Captain Thelshan stared at his communication screen in amazement. The humans were treating contact with the Republic's military as casually as asking for directions. Either they were completely naive about galactic politics, or they were so powerful that Imperial displeasure meant nothing to them. We are monitoring the situation with great interest, he replied carefully. A single ship holding an entire Imperial armada at bay is unprecedented. Oh, they are not holding us at bay, Minho laughed. We are just stuck here until our engineer finishes repairing our drive. The Imperial ships are just hanging around. We are not sure why. The casual dismissal of Imperial military power sent shockwaves through the Republic fleet. If the humans could treat 1,000 warships as merely hanging around, what kind of defenses did their homeworld possess? Back in the Imperial capital, Emperor Zalthus was receiving increasingly alarming reports. The humans had now made contact with the Kethlian Republic while surrounded by Imperial forces. The psychological warfare implications were staggering. Your Majesty, his intelligence minister reported, the humans appear to be demonstrating their lack of concern for Imperial power by openly communicating with our enemies. They are showing both us and the Republic that they consider our conflict irrelevant to their interests. The Emperor felt a chill of fear unlike anything he had experienced in 3 millennia of rule. The humans were playing a game so sophisticated that he could not even understand the rules. What do the Republic ships want? He asked. Unknown, Your Majesty, but their fleet movements suggest they are preparing for something significant. On the human ship, Minho was having a fascinating conversation with the Republic observers. So let me understand this correctly, he said. You and the Imperial people have been fighting for centuries over territorial disputes? That is a simplified version but essentially correct, Captain Thelshan replied. And neither side has been able to achieve decisive victory? The Empire is larger and more powerful, but we have managed to maintain our independence through superior technology and tactics. Interesting, have you ever considered just sitting down and talking about it? Most disputes can be resolved through honest communication. Captain Thelshan was quiet for a long moment. The human suggestion was so naive it was almost charming, but coming from someone whose single ship was casually defying the Empire's greatest fleet, the words carried an odd weight. Perhaps, he said finally, but the Empire does not negotiate with those it considers inferior. Well, everyone is equal from our perspective, Minho replied. We do not take sides in other people's arguments. The message was intercepted by Imperial intelligence and immediately forwarded to the Emperor. The humans had just declared their neutrality in the galactic conflict, while demonstrating capabilities that made both major powers irrelevant. Emperor Zalthus stared at the report for a long time. The humans were either the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen, or the most naive. Given their demonstrated abilities, he could not afford to assume they were naive. Prepare the Imperial Guard fleet for immediate deployment, he ordered. If these humans represent a civilization capable of ending our expansion, we need to know now. Your Majesty, his military advisor said carefully, what if they interpret a larger military presence as an act of aggression? The Emperor considered this. If the humans could neutralize 1,000 ships with ease, what would 10,000 accomplish except to provide them with more targets? Cancel that order, he said. Instead, send a message to Grand Marshal Velthar. Tell him to maintain current positions but take no aggressive action. We cannot afford to start a war we might not be able to win. On the persistence, Yijin finally emerged from the engine room with a satisfied smile. Drive repairs are complete, she announced. We can leave as soon as everyone is ready. Finally, Wujin sighed. Send a message to the Imperial fleet, thanking them for their hospitality, and letting them know we will be departing. The departure of the human ship should have ended the crisis. Instead, it marked the beginning of an even larger problem. Within hours of the Persistence disappearing into hyperspace, both the Imperial Third Armada and the Republic Observation Fleet received new orders from their respective capitals. Emperor Zalthais had spent sleepless nights analyzing every aspect of the human encounter. The more he studied their behavior, the more convinced he became that humanity represented the most sophisticated military threat the galaxy had ever seen. They tested our responses at every level, he explained to his assembled advisors. They penetrated our deepest defenses to demonstrate their technological superiority. They refused our authority to show their political confidence. They contacted our enemies to prove their strategic reach. And then they left, showing us that our entire military response was irrelevant to their actual capabilities. 3-star, systems away, the Kethlian Republic was having similar discussions. Supreme Chancellor Nelvok studied the sensor records of the human ship with growing excitement. For centuries, we have searched for an ally powerful enough to challenge Imperial dominance, she told her military council. These humans held off 1,000 Imperial ships with casual indifference. If we could secure an alliance with them, the balance of galactic power would shift forever. Both powers began mobilizing their fleets toward the edges of known space, searching for any trace of human territory. The greatest space race in galactic history had begun, and nobody had bothered to tell the humans about it. On Earth, the return of the Persistence was treated as a routine end to a scientific mission. Commander Wu Jin filed his standard exploration report, noting the discovery of an inhabited region of space with complex political tensions, and recommending diplomatic caution in future contact. The report sat in a filing system for 3 weeks before anyone bothered to read it. Dr. Young-Soo was Earth's leading xenodiplomat, a specialist in theoretical first contact scenarios. When he finally read Wu Jin's report, he immediately recognized the historical significance of humanity's first encounter with a galactic civilization. We need to establish formal diplomatic relations, he told the Earth Council. This Valdric empire could be the key to understanding the broader galactic community. The Council approved a diplomatic mission, and Dr. Young-Soo found himself aboard humanity's first official diplomatic vessel, the Harmony, heading toward the coordinates where the Persistence had made contact. What he found when he arrived defied all explanation. The system now contained over 3,000 ships from dozens of different species. The space around the contact point had been declared a human exclusion zone by imperial decree. Warning beacons broadcasted in 17 different languages advised all vessels to maintain minimum safe distance from the area of human military demonstration. Military engineering crews had constructed a massive sensor array pointing toward Earth's general direction. The array was designed to provide early warning of human fleet movements and was considered the most important strategic installation in Imperial space. This is Ambassador Young-Soo of the human diplomatic vessel Harmony, he broadcast to the assembled fleets. Could someone please explain what is going on here? The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every ship in the system tried to contact him simultaneously. Communications channels flooded with offers of alliance, requests for protection, and desperate pleas for mercy. Admiral Kethvar, who had been promoted to system commander after surviving humanity's first contact, was the first to establish a clear communication link. Ambassador Young-Soo, this is Admiral Kethvar of the Valdric Imperial Navy. We have been maintaining this position in hopes of renewed contact with your people. The Empire is prepared to discuss terms for peaceful coexistence. Young-Soo stared at his communication screen in confusion. Terms for what? Commander Wu Jin's report mentioned that you were very helpful during their repairs. We wanted to thank you and establish formal diplomatic relations. The word helpful sent shockwaves through the Imperial fleet. The humans were acknowledging Imperial assistance while simultaneously demonstrating their continued strategic superiority. The psychological warfare was even more sophisticated than before. Captain Thel Shan of the Republic fleet immediately joined the communication. Ambassador, the Kethlian Republic would be honored to discuss mutual defense agreements. We believe our species share similar values regarding independence and self-determination. Mutual defense against what? Young-Soo asked. Against Imperial. Expansion, of course. But the Imperial people seem very polite. Why would you need defense against them? The question hit both fleets like a bombshell. The humans were either asking for detailed intelligence about Imperial military capabilities, or they were so powerful that they genuinely could not understand why anyone would fear the Empire. Young Su spent the next several hours trying to understand the situation. Every question he asked seemed to make both fleets more nervous. When he inquired about local trade routes, they assumed he was planning economic warfare. When he asked about cultural exchange programs, they interpreted it as psychological operations. Finally, in desperation, he asked the question that had been bothering him since he arrived. Could someone please explain what you mean by human expansion? Commander Wu Jin's report mentioned one ship that got lost. What expansion? The silence that followed his question lasted for nearly a full minute. Admiral Kethvar was the first to respond. Ambassador, are you saying that the Persistence was your only vessel in this region of space? Of course it was. We have never sent ships to this area before. The Persistence was on a routine scientific mission when they had a navigation malfunction. Captain, Thelshan's voice was filled with disbelief. You are telling us that a single ship operating alone accidentally penetrated to the heart of Imperial space? Well, yes. Accidents happen. That is why we wanted to apologize and establish proper diplomatic channels to prevent future misunderstandings. The two fleet commanders exchanged private communications for several minutes before Admiral Kethvar spoke again. Ambassador, we may have misunderstood your people's intentions. When the Persistence refused Imperial authority and demonstrated superior technology, we assumed they represented a vast military force. Young-Su laughed. Oh no, nothing like that. Humans are explorers and scientists. We are not interested in conquering anyone. We just want to learn about the galaxy and make friends with our neighbors. The word friends caused panic throughout both fleets. Species who could casually dismiss Imperial power while claiming they just wanted friendship were either impossibly naive or impossibly dangerous. What kind of friendship did you have in mind? Admiral Kethvar asked carefully. The usual kind: cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, trade agreements if there is mutual benefit. Maybe some joint exploration missions if you are interested. Young-Su's casual mention of joint exploration missions was interpreted as an offer to share advanced human technology. Both fleets immediately began calculating the strategic implications. Emperor Zalthus received the diplomatic reports with a mixture of relief and terror. The humans were not planning to conquer the galaxy. They just wanted to be friends. The problem was that friendship with a species this powerful could reshape galactic politics just as thoroughly as conquest. What do our analysts recommend? He asked his advisors. Complete accommodation, Your Majesty. We cannot afford to refuse friendship with a species capable of penetrating our defenses at will. If they want cultural exchange, we give them cultural exchange. If they want trade agreements, we offer our most favorable terms. Supreme Chancellor Nelvok received similar advice from her council. We must secure human friendship before the Empire does. Their technology could end Imperial dominance forever. Young-Su found himself at the center of the most intense diplomatic competition in galactic history. Every species in the region was offering treaties, trade deals, and alliance agreements. The humans had accidentally become the most sought-after allies in known space. This is all very flattering, he told the assembled representatives, but I think you might be overestimating human capabilities. We are just one species from one planet. We are not a galactic superpower. Ambassador, Admiral Kethvar said gently, a single one of your ships held our entire armada at bay through pure indifference. Your people treat Imperial authority like a minor inconvenience. Either you are the most humble superpower in galactic history, or your understanding of your own capabilities is incomplete. Young-Su thought about this for a moment. He had read Wu Jin's report several times, and it did seem like the Persistence crew had been remarkably casual about being surrounded by 1,000 warships. Well, he said finally, I suppose humans can be pretty stubborn when we need to be. Commander Wu Jin's crew just wanted to fix their ship and go home. When someone tries to stop humans from doing what we think is right, we tend to dig in our heels. The admission sent a chill through both fleets. The humans had just admitted that their terrifying display of confidence was not sophisticated strategy. It was simple stubbornness. Emperor Zalthus made his decision. If the humans wanted friendship, the Empire would give them friendship. If they wanted cultural exchange,